friends, happy Tuesday. Welcome back to our read aloud for today. Today for our read aloud, we're going to read a story that has to do with fall since we're still in the season of fall. And in this story, we're going to be thinking about the order of events that take place, the order of things that the characters do in order for something to happen. So we're going to work towards our learning target that says, I can identify the sequence, or what that means, sequencing, and also I can sequence the events of a story. So after we read the story, we'll just talk about the order that things happened in order for us to understand and visualize that story in our brain as readers. So before we get started, let's quickly sing our sequencing song to help us remember what it means so that we can be thinking about the order as we read. Ready? Here we go. Sequencing, sequencing is putting things in order, putting things in order. First, next, then last. First, next, then last. Sequencing, sequencing. Very good job. So as we're reading our story today of the Berenstain Bears and the prize pumpkin, I want you to think about the order that the characters do things because it's very important as to what happens in our story. So let's go ahead and get started. All right. This story is written and illustrated by Jan and Stan Berenstain. So both those people drew the pictures and wrote the words in our story. On the front cover, we see this sign says, first prize or bust. Here's our first illustration. Look at the big pumpkin. It says the Berenstain Bears and the prize pumpkin. And here's where our story begins. Pumpkins are just like everything else in nature, said Papa Bear as he and the cubs finished weeding the pumpkin patch. No two of them are exactly alike. That's for sure, agreed Brother Bear. Look at that funny flat one and that lumpy one over there. Then there was the giant, which is what Papa had named one that just seemed to be getting bigger and bigger. Why is it that no two things are exactly alike? Asked Sister Bear. It's just the way nature is, answered Papa. Time to wash up for supper, called Mama Bear from the treehouse steps. So now we see there's 4 characters, Mama, Papa, brother, and sister. What about Queenie McBear's twin brothers? Asked Sister. They certainly look alike, said Papa. But I've noticed that Mrs. McBear can tell them apart quite easily. In you go, said Mama Bear, shooing her family into the house. But Sister didn't go right in. She stood on the stoop for just a moment and looked out over bare country. It was well into fall, so the days were getting shorter. Halloween had come and gone. Pretty soon the bears would start thinking about Christmas. But right now, Bear Country was aglow in the setting sun. Farmer Ben's well-kept farm looked especially fine, with its baled hay, corn shucks, and pumpkins casting long shadows. I guess nature's pretty amazing, Sister said as she looked over the beautiful scene. It's the most amazing thing there is, said Mama. Come on in now. Look at all the colors in the setting that the illustrator used. Farmer Ben's farm sure looks beautiful in the setting sun, said Sister as the family sat down to supper. Humph, said Papa grumpily. Farmer Ben's not such as much. Not such as much, said Mama. Why, Ben is the finest farmer in Bear Country, and besides, he's one of our best friends. That may be so, said Papa, but earlier today he came by and said, Nice little pumpkin patch you got there, Papa. Well, what he said is true, said Mama, especially compared to his fields and fields of pumpkin. That may be so too, said Papa, but I didn't like the way he said it. He sort of chuckled, which means to laugh. My patch may be small, but the giant is big. It may be the biggest and best pumpkin in all Bear Country. What do you think about that? Now, to me as a reader, I'm looking at this picture and I'm noticing that Papa Bear changed his expression. He went from being happy outside talking about his pumpkins and his big pumpkin that was growing to now being upset that one of his friends who had all the fields of pumpkins, bigger fields than his to grow those pumpkins, he said that his friend came by and commented on how small his pumpkin patch was. So to me, that seems pretty important to him. Let's see what happens next. Over here. I think you're being oversensitive, said Mama. Come, let's clear the table so the cubs can do their homework. Brother and sister sighed as they spread their books out on the table. What's that all about? Asked Papa. Oh, I was just thinking, said Brother. With Halloween over and Christmas almost 2 months away, there's nothing to look forward to. That's right, added Sister. Nothing except lots of homework. Oh, is that so? Protested Mama Bear. It just so happens that there's something very important to look forward to. A very special holiday called Thanksgiving. That's when we give thanks for all the wonderful... Your mama's absolutely right, interrupted Papa. He pointed to a notice in the evening paper. It said, don't forget this year's Thanksgiving festival. Entry blanks for the big pumpkin contest available at City Hall. Thanksgiving's a very important holiday, especially this year because we're going to enter the giant in the pumpkin contest and beat the pants off Farmer Ben. Ooh, see, now I know this is important to him. But Papa, he's a professional, said Brother. He's won that contest 10 years in a row. All the more reason to teach him a lesson. Come on, let's go and get out and check up on the next heavyweight pumpkin champion of Bear Country, he said. So which pumpkin are they going to enter into the pumpkin contest? Sorry, I know this keeps shaking. The giant, right? He has one big pumpkin in his pumpkin patch, and he calls it the giant. Now it was Mama's turn to sigh. Thanksgiving was about giving thanks, not beating the pants off Farmer Ben. Isn't it a beauty? Here it is, right here. Papa said after they admired the giant. Across the road, they could see a field of Ben's pumpkins. There were lots of fine ones, but none that measured up to the giant. There's homework to be done, called Mama Bear from the house. As they left, the cubs asked Papa, aren't you coming in? Nope, he said. I'm going to stay out here a little while and watch the giant grow. And grow it did. Look at this picture up here. It's showing us how it grew and grew and grew. It grew bigger, rounder, and oranger every day. When Papa and the cubs went to the city hall to get an entry blank for the contest, they saw the place where the winning pumpkin would go on display. We can't lose, said Papa. In their minds, they could see their pumpkin in the place of honor. So here's the thinking bubble, thinking about, ooh, our pumpkin's going to win first place. Mama tried to remind them what Thanksgiving really was about, but every time she did, Papa would interrupt. You'll have to excuse me, my dear, he said. It's time to water the giant. He not only watered it on a regular schedule and gave it special plant food, he also covered it with a blanket at night and tucked it in against the cold. So he's really, really taking care of this pumpkin, hoping to beat Farmer Ben. One afternoon, the cubs got off the school bus with something very important to tell Papa, but they were stopped in their tracks by what they saw. He was talking to the giant. So they got off the school bus and they see their dad's over here talking to the pumpkin. And he's saying, come on, old buddy, you can do it. Suck up that water, take in that sunlight. Mama explained that Papa had bought a book from the swindler, Raffish Ralph, about how to encourage your plants to grow by talking to them. Well, said Brother, I don't suppose it can do any harm. It sure could harm his reputation, said Sister, if anybody saw him talking to a pumpkin. Do you ever talk to your plants, your flowers at home? Papa, Brother said. A cub at school told me he went on a class trip to Ben's farm and saw some pretty big pumpkins, especially one really big one that Ben calls the monster. We've got to take a look at it, said Papa. That evening, Papa and the cubs climbed through the fence into Farmer Ben's field. They saw some good-sized pumpkins, but none to match the giant. Maybe it's behind the barn, whispered Papa. Suddenly, a light shone on them, and they heard Ben shout, "Prowlers in the pumpkin field! Get me the pitchfork!" They got out of there so fast, Papa tore his overalls climbing through the fence. "What have you been up to?" asked Mama Bear when they got home. Nothing much," said Papa. "Just strolling in the moonlight." So where did they just go? Papa took brother and sister to Farmer Ben's farm to see the big pumpkin that they heard about. But while they were there, Farmer Ben didn't know it was them, did he? He just heard commotion out there, so he shone his flashlight on them, and they ran as fast as they could. And they just got back home, so let's see what happens next. The weekend before Thanksgiving arrived, and it was time for the big festival. The Bear family got there just in time. The pumpkin judging was about to begin. There were many fine pumpkins in the contest, but Papa was sure that none could measure up to the giant until he saw the monster. It was at least as big and round and orange as his pumpkin, and maybe, just maybe, a little bigger, rounder, and oranger. The bears waited nervously while the judges studied, measured, and weighed, then studied, measured, and weighed some more. Finally, they made their announcement. "The first prize winner and still champion." Of course, that meant Farmer Ben had won. It was close. It turned out that Ben's monster was just a little bigger, rounder, and oranger than Papa's giant. But that wasn't even the worst of it. The giant didn't even come in second. A beautiful pumpkin grown by Ms. McGriz won second place. The giant came in third. Papa and the cubs were crushed and very quiet as they pushed their third prize winner home. So they didn't even win first or second. They got third place. Let's see how they handle that. It wasn't until they reached the crest of a hill that overlooked bear country that Mama decided to have her say, "I know you're disappointed, but third prize is nothing to be ashamed of. Besides, Thanksgiving isn't about contests and prizes, it's about giving thanks. And it seems to me that we have a lot to be thankful for." Perhaps it was Mama's lecture, or maybe it was how beautiful bear country looked into the sunset's rosy glow. But whatever the reason, Papa and the cubs began to understand what Mama was talking about. Even more so on Thanksgiving Day, after the bears gave thanks for the wonderful meal they were about to enjoy, Sister Bear gave her own special thanks. "I'm thankful," she said, "that we didn't win first prize. If we had, the giant would be on display in front of City Hall instead of being part of the yummy pies that we're going to have for dessert." So how did they problem solve? They ended up using the pumpkin to cook with, right? To make pies. As the laughter faded and the bears thought about the blessings of family, home, friends, and neighbors, they knew deep in their hearts that there was no question about it. Indeed, they did have a great deal to be thankful for. So, give me 2 thumbs up if you enjoyed that fall story. Very good. And as we were reading, I hope you were thinking about the order things happened. So if they had gone to the competition without a pumpkin, then would there be even a pumpkin competition? No. So it's important to pay attention to the beginning of the story when Papa Bear is talking about planting the pumpkin, and then when he gets upset that his friend Farmer Ben is growing a pumpkin and he thinks his pumpkin's bigger than his. And then Papa Bear really decides to take care of that pumpkin and talk to it and help it grow. And they enter it into the pumpkin contest. And what ends up happening? Did they win? No. Who got first place? Farmer Ben, right? The monster. And then a different pumpkin got second place. And what place did the giant get? Papa Bear's. It got third place. But did they get upset? Yeah, they were a little disappointed, right? But the way that they problem solved that was by going home and being thankful for what they did have and using that pumpkin to bake some pies. So I know that was a long story. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And on Thursday, we'll read our next read aloud and talk about the sequence or the order of events that take place. Great job today, readers.